If you like the content that we're pushing out, please like, share, and of course subscribe. And let us know in the comments what you think about our videos. Like, why would you watch it and not tell us what's going on? And I hope to see you later on. Peace out. Hey guys, and welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. And this video is a little bit out of place and it's a little odd, but I absolutely had to make this video for you guys because Luke Cage Season 2, oh my god, was amazeballs. But anyways, this little bonus video is kind of going to be not really a discussion like I usually say, but more or less we're going to get into some of the symbolisms that took place in Luke Cage Season 2, starting from the beginning of the season as well as all the way to the ending to episode 13. So if you like our content, remember like, share, and of course subscribe and leave a comment down below. And if I miss anything or if you feel like you've noticed something that I did not say, leave a comment and let me know. And without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, the first thing I kind of want to jump into is going to be episode 1. And remember, this episode is more or less just Luke Cage adjusting to the fame life where people see him as almost like this godlike savior, like idol. And people in Harlem see him as a bulletproof black man, someone who can help protect these people from police and crime and all that stuff, because as you already know, in 2018 we're dealing with police brutality, especially towards people of color who are African American, Latino, Latina, whatever you want to identify yourself as a person of color, Hispanic, Mexican, whatever. We are physically being attacked on a daily basis, and it has been going on for quite some time now, but because of social media and the news, we're starting to see these things on TV a lot more. Now, one thing I want you guys to really pay attention to, like I said in the last video that I posted, the day that Luke Cage came out, relatively like an hour after the fact, one thing I want you guys to pay attention to is mostly the relationships as well as the music that's playing in the background. A lot of people don't tend to realize that music was always a very heavy thing in Harlem, especially going on in the 1920s and the 1930s when we started to transition into some very interesting select styles of music, of jazz and all that good stuff and swing. Now, what really makes this interesting is the fact that the Harlem nightclub, well, that nightclub that everyone seems to hang out at, or where most of the activities going on for Mariah, aka Cottonmouth's cousin, who is obviously, he's now dead and she's dead, but spoiler alert. But anyways, the music plays a big symbolism, especially when we kind of get introduced to Claire. When we see her in episode 1, they're actually playing a song that's actually reciting the verses called Night Nurse. Now, everyone has been speculating for the last year or two, even longer than that, since the first season of Daredevil introducing Claire into the whole Netflix MCU, whatever you want to call it. She will be Night Nurse. She's someone who in Marvel Comics has been helping and healing people who have superhuman abilities who cannot necessarily walk into hospitals. So that's one thing you probably want to pay attention to. But anyways, as we start to get along in the season at like around episode 3 or 4, that's when we kind of see this development for Luke Cage, where he has this kind of identity crisis, so to speak, where he wants to protect Harlem, he wants to do the right thing, but often he's dealing with his own personal problems, his own rage, his own emptiness that's going on inside of him, and a lot of the time he doesn't know how to deal with it, and it fully manifests maybe about like episode 4. And I'm not gonna say that's the exact episode, but early in the season you're gonna see like it manifests physically when he's kind of lashing out at Claire. He doesn't hit her, but he kind of puts this hole in the wall. And that's when Claire kind of realizes that he is dealing with a lot of things and a lot of stress, even though, in my personal opinion, I do feel like she was digging into some information about his past that he did not give her permission to access. Now, in season 2, they make a lot of references by using the N-word, and even sometimes when they actually refer to each other, they're using very much the slang that takes place in Harlem that a lot of African Americans use and minorities use who are of African descent, to refer to each other as, a form of endearment. Even sometimes we curse at each other for fun just because, we're casually and comfortably doing so with each other. Now, as we get into Bushmaster, a lot of people compare Bushmaster to Luke Cage because in a lot of ways they do have a healthy, strong heart. They always wanted to look out for the people that they care for, but sometimes the way that they did it was not always the best way. Now, if you pay attention throughout the season, one thing that makes him very different, unlike Luke Cage, is Bushmaster actually never lost a sense of self. Despite everything that he's been through in Jamaica and even his exposure to this Nightshade plant that gave him his abilities and what amped him up throughout the whole second season, he never seemed to lose his sense of self and where he came from, as well as his connection to his family. That was never a part of the problem. A lot of it actually was stemmed from the fact that he was so attached to his family, he went after people who wanted to hurt his family. So this season was more or less about self-discovery and self-identity. where you would think that Luke Cage and Bushmaster, him being the villain for season 2, you would think like, okay, he's the bad guy, he's the person I need to go after. And then even halfway through transitioning to Mariah, who eventually dies, but you think like, okay, they're the enemies, like these are the people he's really fighting. In season 2, the enemy truly is Luke Cage himself, because he himself has not found inner peace. He's dealing with a lot of chaos internally, and he has not really figured out what he wants to do with Harlem and how he's going to do it and what's the right way to do it, because he still has to figure it out. He's still going about the day-to-day that like the rest of us do, because even though he has bulletproof skin and even though he has superhuman strength, he still is human. Now I kind of want to dive in a little bit to Bushmaster's powers, at least where they come from. Now, like a lot of people who actually had an attentive eye to the trailer and how they portrayed what Bushmaster was doing, his powers were specifically drawn from magic. And in season 2, it was specifically referenced as Obeya. Well, basically, this is like a type of dark magic that takes place from the West Indies. It's like a spiritual healing practice developed among the enslaved West Africans. This is actually a real thing, to be quite honest. And in most cases, it's really difficult to define because it isn't a set ritual. Overall, it's more or less just how you use it and where you're drawing that power from, if it's coming from a dark place. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is coming from a dark place. Now, much like I said in my other video, Obeya is similar to Afro-American religions such as Palo, Haitian Voodoo, Santeria, Hoodoo, and all that stuff. So they are very similar in terms of how they operate, where they take a large price just to use it, despite them coming from the earth itself, because people may not know this kind of mythology when it comes to magic, but originally, supposedly, magic was a way for people to access the power of the earth, and the way in which you use it is determined based on the type of price that you paid. And dark magic usually actually causes you to pay the highest of prices due to how powerful it is and the reason why you're using it. So me personally, I think the reason why Bushmaster was so powerful, and the reason why, spoiler alert, he did not die in the second season despite the amount of damage that all of this dark magic was physically doing to his body, was because that even though he was doing things the wrong way, even though he was kind of doing things that were way out of control, ultimately he still had a good heart. He still did it for reasons that kind of put him above that dark magic line in a sense. He used dark magic for a good reason, so to speak, where he wanted to avenge his mother, someone who he loved very much, but also he wanted to get back what was his. Basically, someone stole something that belonged to his family. You know, the Stokes, aka Cottonmouth and Mariah, everyone who comes from that family, they stolen something from Bushmaster that was physically his. And in reality, we find out that that whole nightclub, that Harlem nightclub, was actually built on the foundations of Bushmaster's family. But this is just a couple things that I kind of wanted to talk with you guys about, because like I said, Luke Cage season 2 was very heavily dependent on self-discovery and a lot of hidden messages and stuff like that. And let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you got out of season 2, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out, Zeddy.